Good afternoon. Welcome to our last segment today. My name is John Tenney. I'm your host with the Florida Aviation Network, broadcasting live and in the clear here at Sun and Fun in sunny Lakeland, Florida. I have a special privilege today. I've got two people I've known for many years. I'm going to introduce you to Bob Raskey and Karen Noll. Bob is obviously the one all the way to the left, stage right. And Bob is the one who handed me my CFI of the Year coin, so I'm going to show that because this is from you. Thank you.
Well
He was the National Flight Instructor of the Year in 2023, and he handed it off to me for Orlando in 2024, so thank you. And his lovely wife, Karen Noll, who is currently a 777 International Officer or IO, right?
No, first officer.
First officer, but
Yeah.
she's getting paid like an IO.
Right.
She's with United Airlines. Bob retired about a year ago, right?
A year and a half.
About a year and a half ago, yeah. So the first question I have to ask you, Karen, is last year you told me that as soon as Bob retired, you were going to upgrade. But I know that the pilot shortage has slowed down a little bit, so you can't go right into the left seat of the 777. Is that what you're waiting for?
Yeah, so I've been in the airlines for 35 years, and I hold amazing schedule as a first officer, and it gives me a lot of freedom that I didn't used to have as a captain. And so I'm waiting. If a 777 comes to me, I'll do it. Otherwise,
You'd take a pay cut otherwise, right?
I would take a pay cut.
Yeah, we don't want that.
So,
Bob needs the money now that he's retired.
I have a little pensioner in the house now.
So we have a bunch of things I want to talk to you about. But first of all, I know you're here today to promote airline jobs, I guess, or careers in aviation. And it can start young. So let's talk about it. If there's somebody out there who's 13 or 14, we were talking a little bit before, Bob and Karen and I, and there's some options for people who are only 14. So what can they do at 13 or 14?
Well, you want to talk about the gliders?
Yeah, for 13 or 14, for anybody interested in learning how to fly, and a very inexpensive way to do it is gliders. Like depending where you live and what areas you go, there's usually a glider school nearby in a particular state and all that. But they're very inexpensive in the sense of compared to more expensive power plants. But you know, at 13 or 14, you originally can start learning how to fly in a glider, no engines, right, which is a kind of a cool experience. And then you're going to start soloing around the 14 to 15 range, and 16 you can get your glider licenses. So it's a way of like two things, great skills, right? Because when you're flying a plane with a motor, you know, you basically have a lot of control, and if you have to land somewhere, you can land. Gliders teach you a whole different way of flying your airplane, in the sense of management in the air, knowing where you're going to land, and it's quiet. So it's a very good experience. So parents out there, if you have children, I do that when I fly the Young Eagles and I meet the young kids. I automatically talk to parents and say, you know, a good thing to get your children started going at an inexpensive rate would be find the nearest glider school and see if they like it. That momentum goes, save some money on the way, but then at that point there, they could be hooked and begin that journey. So it's really a good way to go, extremely good way to go. As a matter of fact, are you a glider pilot?
I am not.
You say, next one on the list?
Not intentionally, right?
So yeah, as you imagine, fuel is very expensive. So when you have an engine, it just sucks away all that fuel. A glider is a much less expensive way to get get your hours. Those flight hours from a glider count the exact same as from a plane with an engine. So it's a cheaper way to get your hours. And then there's another way too, Civil Air Patrol. I used to teach kids how to fly for free at the Civil Air Patrol. I got people their privates, instruments, commercial, all kinds of stuff, and it didn't cost them money. And it's a neat organization. They need, not only do you teach people how to fly, but they need people for search and rescue, and they do all kinds of really interesting things. But you can do that at a very early age. I don't know, I think maybe
The cadets. You
Yeah,
can do
cadets
the
are
cadet
very young.
orientation flights anywhere from 13 to 18, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yep, and you're actually getting your hands on the plane and you're getting hours.
I actually rose to major in the Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, you didn't know that,
I
did
did
you?
not know that.
I was the Florida chief check pilot, Florida
my
wing
gosh.
chief check pilot, and they've lost all those records. So,
Well, you know the value of it.
so now I'm just a
Yeah.
senior member.
Yeah.
Try to get back. That's one thing and if you're listening out there, Civil Air Patrol, this is what I want you to do, is cut down the paperwork. Please.
Please.
Because just to get my Form 5, to get certified, there's all these written tests and this like FEMA stuff I have to take. And by the time I got it all ready, one had expired, so I had to go back and take it. And I just said, you know what? I'll just keep flying regular.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork, but actually, you know, like I said, for the kids, it's not as much, and that's a great way to get your hours inexpensively.
And it's cool to do a search and rescue and actually find somebody.
Yeah, that is amazing, isn't
I
it?
had that. I got a fine.
Yeah.
Once. It was an opportunity fine too. They were closing Fort Myers Airport. I said, "Why we're closed?" "Oh, there's a downed aircraft." I said, "Well, I'm a CAP mission pilot. Can I help you?" He said, "Are you RDF equipped or DF equipped?" He said, because that's how we used to find the ELTs, you know. And I had an ADF. I know how to do wing Noll method. And I went up there and I found him. So,
Wow.
you know,
That's awesome.
all the way home, there was, "Hey, congratulations on the find," because they kept telling the controller in front of it. And then I had to ruin it the next day with a runway incursion. So I went from here to Slug in one day.
Oh no,
Learning.
whole nother story.
Learning lesson. Be safe somebody.
Well, I did enjoy CAP, and it is a good thing. Like I said, if you can get past all the paperwork, it's a really good way to learn to fly, and you get to do the missions, which are kind of exciting, and you do learn about mission control, mission commanders, and order, you know, chain of command, things like that. It is a good way to learn, and it's going to help you even if you don't go into the airlines. Now, the other question I had, since this is 2026, the year of, you know, we're now in the era of the gray area. What's a powered glider?
What is a powered glider?
Yeah.
You mean like in the sense of in the category? Or
I have seen these gliders that have these little Rotax engines on them, so they can get up themselves, and then they put the engine away.
I've been in one, and you know, early days of gliding, I jumped in. But yeah, it's very neat. You know, they have much nicer versions now of powered gliders in the sense of like equipment and engineering on them, where they do have that kind of engine pop up and go. So powered gliders, one way you get off the road, you know, for time building, like that's another way, right? If you're gliding just by gliding, you come down and land, right? But a powered glider will get you up there to a very high altitude, motor comes down, and you could be up there for easy 4, 5, 6 hours.
Is it
easily.
considered a glider?
But, well, when the engine comes down, it gets its power glider.
So, but in order to fly it, though, you need a private pilot's license, right?
Yeah, you would have some kind of license in that, you know. So
It's not a glider license.
Right.
Oh, okay. So that does. Okay.
So that's not a pathway.
Yeah, I was thinking like,
yeah,
here's
yeah.
a sneaky
But a good
way.
way to build time and enjoy. A lot of people do that just for.
So we always talk about building time, and people ask me like, well, you're an instructor. You must be a very experienced pilot. But we know that this is one of those weird industries where the first thing you do, your first job, is instructor. Because you can get that with as low as like 180 hours from some of these Part 141 schools like Embry-Riddle or ATP. But the airlines aren't going to look at you until you have.
Well, previously, depending on what school you go to and the way it's set up, at 1,500 hours, but then that's a regional airline. And now there's, okay, so when COVID happened, they didn't know what was going to happen to the airline industry. So they allowed a lot of guys early retirement. So a lot of guys left. And then there was like, you know, after COVID, everybody wanted to fly everywhere in the planet. They didn't want to stay at home anymore. And so they had to get a lot of pilots
You
fast.
had an expression for that before that was really good. Did you remember what was really funny? They had like out of the house fever or something, like flying fever.
Oh.
This had to go somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
no. Yeah, everybody had to go. And so anyway, they hired a lot of people, and the minimums came down because they just needed people. And now we have a lot more people. And so now the requirements are a little higher to get into the major airlines. And it might take you a little bit longer to get into the regional, and you'll stay at the regional for maybe 2 or 3 years, which is good because you get a lot of experience flying, you know, 3, 4 legs a day, every day for 4 days a week. That's a lot of experience. And so you come to the majors knowing your craft. And so that's great. I would suggest to people that there was a time where maybe it wasn't necessary to have a college degree anymore to become an airline pilot. But I do think that because we have enough people in our pool that have 5,000 hours from Spirit or Frontier or something like that, we have enough experienced guys that you're going to have to rise above that. So you can do an online degree from Embry-Riddle or wherever, commuting college, get a degree. I would suggest put that in your back pocket as well.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So, as you said, it's not required.
It's not required right now.
But it's a deal winner.
Yes,
If you
it's
win,
icing on the cake, and if everybody else has the same number of hours, they're going to pick the college grad.
it's a differentiator.
Yeah, shows
You're
they
going
can
to take the
you
one
complete
with
things.
with the degree. Okay. Oh, it's good to know that. What else now you keep saying guys, and I know you mean everybody, right? Guys
Yeah.
and girls, right?
Yeah, come on.
Okay, we're being gender fluid here today. So, what else should an aspiring pilot try to do to make themselves more attractive to an airline?
So, actually, airlines require volunteerism. They want to see that they don't just want somebody who shows up, does their job, and leaves. They want to see that they're good human beings. So you can help, you can get more hours teaching kids how to fly for free, or Young Eagles program, which is EAA has a Young Eagles program. I don't know if you folks know about it, but it's where it exposes people who might not otherwise have opportunities to get in planes. It teaches them enough to get in, and then they get to fly. They get a logbook. They get signed off by an instructor, which you've done before, and they realize if this is a good gig for them or not, and then. And if you love it, there's plenty of scholarships out there. There's from Women in Aviation, International Society of Women Airline Pilots, OBAP,
EAA.
99s, EAA. Yeah, there's lots of scholarships. So if you need money, because it's an expensive thing to do, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And you just have to persevere, write the essays, put the applications in, and people win those. Those monies are out there for the taking.
I also discovered this with my own daughter. We set up an education fund. I think I'm going to get the numbers wrong, 403B. Am I getting it right? It's one of those funds where we contributed, is it what, 529? I just heard it, my ear just said 529, so my director knows. Okay, the 529 program. So we put all this money in there, and then we asked our financial planner, who's with Raymond James, no plug. But anyway, he said, yes, you could spend that on aviation training that's considered education. So if you've got some funds put aside for your kids, they can use that towards their education, even after they get their college degree, but then they need to get all their ratings too. And then, as we know, that's costs money. What do you suggest? There's some other ways to, pollen's count is amazing today. How else can we lower the financial burden on someone trying to learn? I've got some ideas myself, but I want to hear what you two have come up with.
It's tough, because the financial burden begins with, hard assets, so it's, plane buying, fuels and all that. Like you just mentioned, the school, the scholarships and all the things like that. How you can lower the burden, again, is going back to that concept of find the best route that you can build the most time with the least amount of money, going back to the gliders and things like that. So that way you can build up your time, and then you don't have a burden, because now you can cap off with the 1,500. Now, it doesn't mean I'm pushing gliders all the way, but there's also
they are cheaper.
Military.
They're cheap. Military is another way too. Of course, that's the thing.
Yeah, military.
So I graduated, and when I left high school at 18 in high school, in New York, I joined the Army National Guard. So that you brought a good point. So in the Army National Guard, I became a helicopter mechanic, but I did not want to be a pilot. I just wanted to be a mechanic because I was building cars back in the day at 18.
You're one of those guys.
Yeah, building things. So when I joined the Guard, though, you automatically, when you're in the military, Guard, Reserve, full-time or not, you get the GI bills coming to you. So with the GI bill, it's going to come out to you. They change over time, but they're pretty good. They'll pay you up to sometimes 60, 75% or more of your education. Or more, actually 100% of the GI Bill. In the flight portion of it, they have a separate flight part. They'll go 60, 75% flying. So say you go join the National Guard, and you do 1 weekend a month. And your weekend a month is at a nice unit, maybe you're working, fixing, doing F-16s, whatever you do, because if you don't have a college degree or a pilot yet, you're kind of working in other areas. But now, you go out there and say, I can't afford school, like say Embry-Riddle. But now I'm in the National Guard Reserve. I have a GI Bill behind me taken care of. A big chunk of it is in most of the schools. Now you say, I can't afford to fly. Well, under that bill, the GI Bill there, they'll pay 75%. You got to get your private pilot license, though. Under that bill, at least get your private pilot license. But you can get it as inexpensive one area you get. Just don't spend a lot of money on it, but go to a good school that's economically fair. And then with that, after the private, now the the bucket opens up. So like if you say, man, I can't afford it. Well, that's one step. Serve the country a little bit. Guard reserve. That's part-time. It's not you're going to war tomorrow. It's not full-time. It's a part-time experience that teaches you to go out. In Florida, for example, my two daughters, my two daughters are in the Guard Reserve. One is flying. She's up in Savannah, Montgomery, where they have the F-35s. And then her sister just graduated in the Guard, and she's going to Patrick Air Force Base to not fly the HC-130s, work on fixing and accommodating the pilots, because she's not, how would you say, she doesn't have a college degree yet, so she can't become an officer, but she joined the Guard to go in there and become part of that team, and now she's 1 week in a month, got the GI Bill, paying and all that, riding along with the HC-130s with the crews there, so she's setting a path of like, beforehand, how do I pay for this? Done.
And now she has her private and her instrument, so she's working her way through, and they're paying it.
That's
the
a big
military
bonus,
option is
great option.
is good. No, but for those that don't do that, I like to teach people in the simulator.
Oh,
as
simulator
much
is
as
great.
possible, because it's so much cheaper. And if you know these home simulators, X-Plane, Microsoft, people are learning all about the basics, at least about maybe airspace or taxiways or runway, just by using the simulator. But I've always said, let's go for a flight first. Let's make sure that you don't get upset by the bumps. You know, I'll take someone to lunch somewhere. Like, let's just go to Gilbert, go over to Winter Haven, have lunch, then fly back. And then at least you know what it's like to be in a small plane. But then you can save money, but let's go learn all this stuff in the simulator, like how to do the radio, how to taxi, how the structural stuff. Then you can go up and spend the big money on the plane and learn the flying stuff.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because you aren't going to do it in 40 hours.
No.
With all the new regs and all the new requirements, I have never seen anybody, at least not in the last 5 years, get to private with 40 hours.
And to your point, I'm teaching and instructing a private pilot student right now in New Smyrna, right?
Yeah.
And same thing, he's doing a good job and he's jumping in there. But I told him to go to a simulator, seek a simulator out, because this air traffic control radio voices, right? Practice all that by doing the simulator in advance to come up there. When he comes flying, it saves him some time and money, because now he jumps in an airplane. If he does, the communication ATC comm programs.
If you got on one of those private networks, or if you got somebody, an instructor who does the controller for you,
exactly.
like I do. Yeah.
They learn without paying the big bill on the plane, but they'll get there quicker and faster if they use, like you said, the simulator. It's a very valued asset.
Yeah.
And when they get all comfortable with that, they come to you and say, and they can fly. People fly simulator sometimes. They jump in that plane and it's like, whoa.
Well, you can't log it, but then I don't want to log time as a student pilot anyway. I want to log it as a private pilot, because that's pilot in command. And the airlines still look at that, right? How much PIC do you have?
Yeah.
So
Similar time, actually, when I used to have kids, I was teaching kids in the Civil Air Patrol, I would take them up and I'm like, have them right at the controls, and I say, turn to a heading of 180 and climbing 500 foot per minute.
You
They're
have
like,
to know that
nailed
that's
it.
S.
And then they're like, I'm like, okay, I want you to descend at 750 feet a minute to 3,500. And they're like, whoop. And I'm like, Microsoft Simulator? And they're like, yeah, that's my
X-Plane.
favorite. Yeah, or
Hopefully
X-Plane, yeah.
X-Plane.
Well, that was back before that. So, it actually, if you are good in simulator, it's easier to fly the plane. The plane is like way easier than a simulator. It's so sensitive, so I think it's really
you can
great.
concentrate on the flying and not on the alphabet soup in your head, like all the letters and all the codes. Yeah, that, because learning the ICAO, you can learn that on a. I agree. I've been having some really good success with some private students, which I didn't expect on the simulator. I always think, running simulator, you're doing airline pilots or people getting, King Airs and Pilatus, things like that. Speaking of, did you get your TBM?
Yeah, I basically, you do. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, TBM.
And you've been flying it?
Not so much. Been flying other kind of aircraft and stuff like that. Just right now, just sitting there waiting to be flown.
What do you think of single engine turbines?
Love TBM turbines. I've flown PC-12s, TBMs, all the single engine market and stuff like that. TBM's a rock star in the community of people that love TBMs. It's very fast, economical, and in terms of single engine world, and beloved in the professional community, people that like that. And the PC-12 is a little slower but carries more load. But between the two, the TBM is very popular. Get over there, do that versus a jet, like a Citation jet or TBM or something like that, faster economics. But T-Ban's a high speed, gets you there, and it's kind of an economical plane for those.
Sexy plane. It is.
It
You
is,
like
is it?
I bet,
I do.
right?
It could be considered sexy.
As I expected, we had plenty to talk about,
Yeah.
and we've already filled up all our time. But this has been great. I knew we would. This is a great way to finish up the day with Florida Aviation Network. We will resume tomorrow at, I think our first one is at 9:30 tomorrow, 9 or 9:30. I really want to thank Bob Raskey, Karen North. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And go upgrade quick soon. Okay, so I'm John Tenney. On behalf of Florida Aviation Network, thank you for joining us today, live in the clear from Sun and Fun in Lakeland.